All right, students, if you haven't already, please go and do these Desmos activities. Remember, it's student.desmos.com, and I've got codes for periods 1 and period 5. Because I really want you to explore with this and figure out for yourself the derivative of specifically, well, you'll see. Okay, so pause your video if you haven't done it yet, and please go do these. All right, if you're back, hopefully you figured out that the derivative of y equals, if y is equal to e to the x, then the derivative is also e to the x. And we're going to prove this with first principles using the fact that when we have this, if I separate this out, then I'm going to have the limit as h goes to 0 of, this is going to turn into e to the x, e to the h, minus e to the x over h. Well, I can factor out the e to the x, and it's not dependent on h, so it can go in the front, and then I'm left with the limit as h goes to 0 of e to the h minus 1 over h. Well, this is the same as e to the x minus 1 over x, and the limit as x goes to 0 of that, it's a special function of e, and this is defined to be 1. So this isn't a situation where we can factor and manipulate and cancel out the e's. It's that we know as a property of e that this limit is 1. So we get e to the x times 1, which of course is just e to the x. Knowing this, that lets me use the chain rule to say that if y is equal to a to the x, well, I can rewrite a as e to the ln of a, because that simplifies back to a. So e to the ln of a to the x. Well, I know when I have powers to a power, I just multiply. So with chain rule, I can think of this as derivative of the inside. So derivative of e to the x is e to the x. Sorry, that's the outside. We've got something to the x. Times the derivative of the inside. Well, the inside, let me start by rewriting this as, that's going to be e to the x ln a. And now this is the same as taking the derivative of that, my dy dx, derivative of the outside is e x ln a, so it's just the same thing, times the derivative of the inside. Well, derivative of x ln a is just ln a. This simplifies down to be a to the x times ln of a. So remember, this simplifies down because if I have ln, I can bring this up to the top. So this is the same as e ln a to the x. And then my e raised to the power ln, kind of like it cancels, that's not really what happens. So that's why I get this back. All right. So neither one of these things you have to memorize, though, because they're both in your formula book. So if y is a to the x, the derivative is ln of a times a to the x. If a is equal to e, well, ln of e is just 1, so we get e to the x.